Alright, on to the American history part of the library. This is going to be the pre-1900 American history section, then I'm going to do the post-1900. So this is from 1899 back, all the way like to Columbus, if there's any of that here. So, in no particular order, I'm just going to start Andrew Johnson and Reconstruction by Eric L. McKittrick. Now, I haven't opened the volume, I know nothing, I got it for $1. But it strikes me as odd because Andrew Johnson was president when, in 1825 or 1830 or 35 or something like that, before the Civil War, I thought. I may have that wrong, he may have been president in 1850, I don't know. But Reconstruction, I thought Reconstruction was the stuff that happened after the Civil War, so odd. That might be an interesting volume, 1960s, that was published 1960. The Great Rehearsal, the story of making and ratifying of the Constitution of the United States by Carl Van Doren. You've probably heard the name Carl Van Doren if you watch my videos, maybe not. I've heard it. I don't know who it is, but I've heard the name. Paul Revere, The World and the World He Lived In by Esther Forbes. Published World War II, if I remember. 1942. The American Constitution by Pritchett. I don't know how much more I need to know about the Constitution. I've gone through it pretty closely, but I guess having books by others on it's never a bad thing, especially for a damn $1. Copyright 1959. The Emergence of a Free Press by Leonard W. Levy. Now that isn't obviously... It isn't immediately obvious what it's about. The Emergence of a Free Press is about the history of the early press in America. The Great Plains by Walter Prescott Webb. Pretty good book. I'm not too far into it. Where are we? Page 85. Lots of stuff about the Indians, and I fear it may give rise to a book about the Indians. I'm sorry, Jesus, a video. I wouldn't write a book about the Indians. No. The American Revolution Considered as a Social Movement by J. Franklin Jameson. As a social movement. What the hell does that mean? I don't know about that. For $1, I'll add it to my library and check it out on a rainy day. Democracy in America by Tocqueville. Now, the copy I've been using is this regular paperback. But this baby, look at that. That's a good quality soft cover in absolutely perfect shape. It's got some notes in it. Some people have made some notes in it. Perfect shape for $1. I saw it and just, I mean, there's no, just a reflex, just grab it. The year was 1787. The place, the State House in Philadelphia. Delegates from 12 of the 13 states sitting in a long, often heated sessions drafted a new constitutional basis for the American nation. This book is a fresh retelling of a story vital to free men everywhere. The framing of the Constitution. For $1, and that's quite a long subtitle, I thought. For $1, why not? The Urban Crucible, Social Change, Political Consciousness, and the Origins of the American Revolution. Social Change, Political Consciousness. And the Origins of the American Revolution. Why not just title it The Origins of the American Revolution? Cities in the Wilderness, the first century of urban life in America, 1625 to 1742. Now, that shows up in the pre-1900 area because I can't go back earlier than... I couldn't have a section for pre-1800, right? Well, I guess I could. All the Constitution stuff would go in that section. So, that was a stupid thing to say. Alright, next book. A History of the United States by Walter Miller. Published in 54 or something like that, 58. The American Pilgrimage, The Roots of American History, Religion, and Culture by Cyclone Covey. How the spiritual origins of the American dream were converted to worldly goals. I've heard a better interpretation of it. I've heard that when people came here, they found that, see, a quote from a guy in one of the Virginia colonies, one of the early ones, found out that corn did not grow by military order or whatever, by command, by some sort of command, official command. You can't just command corn to grow. So they split up all the farmable land in the colony and gave an equal piece to every person and said, you get the food that comes off of that, and if you don't have any food, you don't eat. And that's when the beginning of success began. So to say that religious persecution and fervor brought people here, but it was their freedom here that allowed them to create so much. The Great Merchants by Mahoney. I've read this from beginning to end. Tom Mahoney. Pretty good book. 300 pages. Published in 1955. From 47 to 55 with a couple of revisions. Pretty good book about... let's see. I'll read some of the names that it goes over. Hudson's Bay Company, Brooks Brothers, America's oldest clothing store, Tiffany's, the world's most famous jewelry store, Singer Sewing Machine Company, Marshall Field and Company, Brentano's, Booksellers to the World, I had never heard of it before, Macy's, A&P, J.L. Hudson Company, Sears Roebuck, J.C. Penney, Neiman Marcus, and some others. I only read about half the names. About 20 chapters, each one on a great merchant. The thing that I noticed, and that might be worth 20 minutes of video someday maybe if I get it in the mood. The thing I noticed about the great merchants there, and this goes over the 1800s and the 1900s, so I didn't know which category to put it. I noticed that perseverance was the thing with the merchants. Like the guy who runs the clothing store thing in Maine, L.L. Bean Company in Maine. The guy, for example, designed some boots because he thought hunting boots were inferior. Designed some hunting boots, put out flyers saying that this is designed by this guy who spent years in the backwoods of Maine. Sells 100 pair. About 90 of them get returned because they were not, the leather was too light and so on. Anyways, he ended up redoing that and ended up making a major success out of this product, the boot. So his boots were famous for years, and maybe still are a good selling item. Boots from L.L. Bean, I don't know. Thomas Jefferson's autobiography, obligatory, you gotta have that around. The Old Regime and the French Revolution, Alexis de Tocqueville. That shouldn't be here. That should be in the European history section. That's here because I just glance at it and think Tocqueville, Democracy in America, right in the American section. Thomas Paine, selections from his writings. Power, Morals, and the Founding Fathers. Essays on the interpretation of the American Enlightenment. That's an interesting subtitle. Just another book about the Founding Fathers, but on the American Enlightenment. Interesting what might be said about that by Adrian Koch, K-O-C-H. A name I know, but I'm not sure if I know the Adrian part. The Koch I know as an intellectual writer, so, but I don't know where from. Medicine and Society in America, 1660 to 1860. Richard Harrison Shryock. Now, that covers 200 years of medieval stuff. I mean, in the 1800s they did start having things like the laughing gas and general anesthesia and stuff like that. That must be a horrible book. About, well, it's probably a good book. It's probably about horrible things. The Roots of American Economic Growth, 1607 to 1861. An essay in social causation. I do not know. I don't know. That was a borderline. For $1 though, I thought, add it to the library and we'll see someday. George Washington's Generals, edited by George Athenbilius. Edited by? Who was it written by? So that's interesting. Copyright 1964.